Can you remind me if you'll be so kind, staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? With purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Well, hi, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm Lori LeBay, the host and founder of Alzheimer Speaks. And for those of you that are new to our show, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. You see, we believe that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we're going to be able to remove the stigmas attached to memory loss and help people continue to live their lives with purpose. Together, I know we can get people to understand the true needs of the disease by just having a comfortable conversation. At our core, we believe collaboration is the only way we're going to win this battle, and we know it's working because of all of your likes and clicks and shares of our resources. You see, those couple of seconds you take just to click on a Facebook or a Twitter or a Google icon or Pinterest, it can be, the list goes on, LinkedIn, you are sharing dementia resources with your sphere. And there's a lot of people in your sphere that probably are dealing with this but haven't talked about it. And the more information we can get out to them, the more comfortable they are going to feel to grab a hold of it when they're ready. And we just can't thank you enough for sharing the information because, you see, you made Alzheimer Speaks be the #1 influencer online according to ShareCare and Dr. Oz. And again, we didn't do that. You did that. So thank you so much for your support. And we hope that you continue to share our information, if it's the radio show or the blog, the Dementia Chats webinars where our panelists actually have dementia, or a resource directory. All of those things help remove the fear and the isolation and bring us together as a community. I also want to mention, for those of you that are new to our show, you might be thinking, gosh, I've got an idea. I have something I want to talk about. Well, reach out to me. Go to alzheimerspeaks.com. That's kind of our mothership. There's a big contact button there. And shoot me an email or give me a holler. I'd love to hear from you. We interview people all around the world, those that are living with dementia, those that are caring for them, both family and friends and professionals, along with researchers and authors and movie directors, singer-songwriters, just a little bit of everybody who is providing a service, tool, or product to help people live better. One of those products, or I should say services, which I think is wonderful, that if you're in Minnesota, you can tap into, because Good Samaritan Society got a nice grant, and I wish it was broader than Minnesota, but it's not, but they are doing life coaching for caregivers at zero cost to you. So you can go to Good Sam and, give them a holler at 605-679-1765. That's 605-679-1765, and find out more about that caregiver coaching. Now, today, we are thrilled to have with us Dr. Gary Tong, and he is a physician, a clinical researcher, and a leading expert in the science behind Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Tong serves as a therapeutic area head for dementia at the Lundbeck U.S. Corporation, and he is an affiliate of Lundbeck, among the world's only global pharmaceutical companies focused exclusively on brain disorders. So we're going to just have a wonderful conversation with Dr. Tong today. Welcome, Dr. Tong. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. I'm really pleased and honored to be here to discuss with you.
Well, thank you. One of the questions I always like to ask everybody that's on our show before we kind of get into our line of question is Dr. Tong, have you been personally touched either by a family member, a friend, or colleague with dementia?
Yes, actually, my wife's grandmother, she had Alzheimer's disease, and she passed away. So I do have a personal experience.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Can you tell our audience why it is so challenging to develop new treatments for Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia?
Yeah, so there is many reasons why developing new treatment for Alzheimer's disease has been exceptional challenge. Maybe I was due to the limited time we have. Maybe I will just mention three things. I think this is, at least in my mind, is the top reason why it has been so challenging. The first of all, the brain is really the human body most complicated organ. As you may know, there are roughly 100 billion brain cells, which we call the neuron, in human brain. And each neuron or each brain cell also make about 1,000 to 10,000 contact points so they can connect to each other. So that means we have roughly 100 trillion synapses in the human brain. And this is really complicated network, just like the World Wide Web. And at least we believe the final cause of Alzheimer's is really the brain cell died, and also the contact between each neuron dysfunction. No matter what is the previous or the preceding pathology, the final step is really the neurodegeneration. That means the brain cells died from different factors or different causes. That's one complexity. And second, the brain is also it's so delicate an organ, so it also protects itself really nicely. Basically, not like any other organ, the brain is really built their own walls to fence out any toxin coming into the brain. So that means the drug development for the brain disease is much more complicated compared to cancer, compared to cardiovascular disease or diabetes, because we needed to make sure whatever the drug can really go through the wall, get into brain. And this is rather complicated. And there's only like certain chemicals or certain drugs with certain properties can really cross what we call the blood-brain barrier. That's basically is the wall between the brain and between the blood or between any other tissues or organs. The second reason is the Alzheimer's disease itself is really complicated. At least we believe right now there's multiple causes for Alzheimer's. The two leading hypotheses for causes for Alzheimer's disease is amyloid, beta amyloid, which is a fragment of the protein which can be accumulated outside of the brain cells. There's also another protein which has a normal function, which we call the tau, T-A-U. The tau can also cause aggregation, so basically they can form clump and inside of the brain cells. And through those extracellular amyloid beta and intracellular tau protein aggregation, the eventually outcome is really the brain cell will become dysfunction, and eventually they will be died. And this third challenge, I think maybe it's really to do with the recruitment challenge. The Alzheimer's clinical trial has been really complicated, really long. And usually the study also rather big. We have significant challenge to recruiting the participants to come into our clinical studies for various of reasons. Maybe I can go a little bit more detail later on to really explain what we can do to really overcome those recruitment challenges.
Sure. That would be great. You know, I know. I don't know if you know my history, but my mom had dementia for 30 years, and you know, one of the things, you know, as a lay person, you know, I kind of look back at, you know, the causes like everyone does, and you know, it just seems like you said, such a complicated disease, and there's so many different angles of possible causation. You know, with this disease, and then having a lack of participants to be able to do studies, and lack of funding you hear about as well, you know, to do the studies. And yet this disease keeps, you know, creeping up in numbers. It's just, it kind of blows my mind away, you know, with this whole process, and what it's kind of doing to society as a whole, and individuals and families alike. You know, we really do need to get a grip on this. And so I was really interested to have you on the show today to talk about, you know, what are some of the most important things that we can do to help accelerate the development of new Alzheimer's treatments. You know, for us as individuals, how do we help companies and organizations who are actually doing the work, you know, be able to get this on a faster pace?
Yeah, so maybe I can give maybe three additional things I feel is most important to really accelerate or to speed up the development of the new Alzheimer's treatment. I think maybe the U.S. government or the global government needed to invest more money to really fund the basic research and also clinical research to really understanding the cause of Alzheimer's disease. Even though we believe there's two major causes of Alzheimer's disease, but I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, and we really don't know exactly what caused Alzheimer's disease. And I think the government may really help to if they can fund in more towards the Alzheimer's research. And I think the second most important things, I think you speak multiple times, is really the collaborations. I think we needed to have more collaborations even between the pharmaceutical company and also collaborations between the pharmaceutical company and the government, and also academia, the research institute, and I think of the non-profit organizations such as Alzheimer's associations and other patients' care dominant organization. I think it is also important. And I think finally the collaboration really between the patients, the caregiver, and also the society. I think it's really extremely important to really to raise the awareness and some other issues. I think the number three things if we can really do is really trying to raise awareness and really encourage people with Alzheimer's disease or even the patient's caregiver to really participate in clinical trial. I mean, either the treatment trial for new drug or using some existing drug for Alzheimer's indication, or also importantly, I think even for some clinical trial which does not involve any treatment, just to really follow up longitudinally, I think this is also important. I think if your listener can get like one important message from this program is participate in Alzheimer's clinical research, either in clinical trials or other clinical research.
Yeah, and that is really important. Here in Minnesota, I'm part of the Minnesota Memory Project, and I go in like every year just to get tested. And, we had my mom's brain autopsied as well when she passed away a couple of years ago. And I still can't make heads nor hair out of it because it sounds like there's a lot of conflicting information that they got out of that autopsy. But it is, we're not going to make headway if we don't participate. And so it really is very important for people to take this seriously because researchers like yourself can't find answers if we're not getting you the information you need at the base to do your research. And so I'm totally, totally on board with that. Is there a role for both people that are symptomatic and then also with the disease for modifying treatments? Can you kind of explain what's going on there as far as treatment-wise for people?
Yes, I think the simple answer is yes. There is a role and a need for both symptomatic treatment and the disease-modifying treatment. Maybe I can explain what we call disease-modifying and what we call symptomatic treatment. As you may know, FDA approved 5 treatment drug for Alzheimer's disease. Although the last approved drug was almost 12 or 13 years ago, which was memantine at 2003. And since then, there has no any new drug approved by FDA. I think we're really desperately needing any new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. And disease-modifying treatment is really the treatment aimed to stop the underlying step which causing Alzheimer's disease. There's many attempts over the last 20 or even 30 years, and really trying to develop the disease-modifying treatment. Basically, the hope is we can modify the steps which causing Alzheimer's, and hopefully we can delay or slow in the symptoms. At least from one analysis, over the last 10 years, I mean from 2002 to 2012, basically there's more than 100 compounds in different stage of drug development, and only one compound succeed. And basically the failing rate is about 99.6%. So we definitely need some treatment and to really make some impact on patients with Alzheimer's disease. So that being said, I think we not only need a disease-modifying treatment, but also we need a symptomatic treatment. Just what I said, the symptomatic treatment is really specific targeting on symptoms rather than really trying to stop the underlying steps which cause Alzheimer's disease. Most likely, the initial symptoms in older stage of Alzheimer's disease is memory loss. So at least 4 of the out of 5 compound is really targeting on one neurotransmitters, which we believe is causing the memory and cognition decline in Alzheimer's disease, which is what we call the acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. However, the acetylcholinesterase inhibitor and even the one later on approved by FDA, which is called memantine, they all only have a moderate effect. So we definitely need to have some new and more effective and even safer symptomatic treatment for our Alzheimer's patient. At least for now, even though we have a multiple disease-modifying compound in different stage of drug development, at least from the data or from the mechanism of action, we are not expecting any cure to really come into the market in the next 10 or even 15 or 20 years. I think for some of the patients, even though the disease-modifying treatment may potentially slow or delay of the symptoms, but eventually they will still continue to decline and it will be continued, eventually will require to have a symptomatic treatment. So the taking-home message is we need to have a both. We need to have the symptomatic treatment, and also we need to have a disease-modifying treatment, which is really targeting the underlying step which cause Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it's interesting to hear when you're saying, you don't see any new cure for 10 to 20 years, because you hear so many people talking about it's just around the corner, it's just around the corner. And my belief was we were further out than that just because of our process, to get a drug approved. It didn't seem to me like we were all that close. So it's nice to get confirmed, because I think the public needs to know realistically what we're dealing with here in terms of this disease. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges for recruiting people for clinical trials, and how are you approaching that right now, and how are others, and what's working and what isn't working to get the people that you need?
Yes, I can definitely go through more detail in terms of recruitment. So I think one of the big issues for recruitment is actually we do have some good news. We do have a significant drug in different stage of a drug development. There was one study published, I think, 2 years ago. So basically, they analyzed all the clinical trial listed in clinicaltrials.gov, and basically they did analysis to see how many Alzheimer's studies been going on, and how many participants needed to be get into the studies in order to complete the study, and they come out like roughly there's a 150 clinical trial going on at least in 2012, and I expect this number will be really getting bigger even compared to 2 years ago. And the estimate roughly require 70,000 participants to enroll. At least from our experience and also from some other experience, in order to get those 70,000 participants, we may need to begin with 700,000 to really get to initial screening, and eventually they can meet the inclusion and exclusion criteria, and eventually come to clinical trial. So I think, even the demand for participate is significant high. In addition, National Health Institute also did organized a conference about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and really they're trying to identify what is the recruitment challenge. And they basically come up for significant challenges. One of them is really the primary care physician really lack of capacity and resources to really assess the cognition. And if they even diagnose the Alzheimer's patient, they have a lack of resource and capacity to follow those patients to clinical trial. In addition, there's also not like many other non-Alzheimer's clinical studies. For Alzheimer's clinical studies or clinical trials, we really require to have a study partner, so we can really assess the patient's cognition and function. So I think that also has significant challenges. Sometimes the patients cannot really find a study partner to go with them to complete the study required visit. and this has been a significant issue. And in addition, for Alzheimer's clinical research, there's also some study which require invasive procedure. For example, some study require a spinal tap to really get cerebral fluids out from the patient for biomarker and or for some other tests. And in addition, most of the Alzheimer's clinical trial now require brain imaging, which also may have some significant impact on the recruitment. So I think those are some key challenges. And in addition, the Alzheimer's Association, they just published some data, and even like a society or like a country like the U.S., which has the most advanced healthcare system, and there's also significant delay diagnosis and also delay treatment. Basically, the data showed only roughly about 50% of the patients has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, even though they have symptoms and signs of Alzheimer's and other dementia. And in addition, those with diagnosis, and only about half of them actually of the patients are aware they have the diagnosis, and the other 50% of the patients, they didn't even know they have the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. I think how to improve the awareness and how to make sure when the patients or when the people has clinical signs and symptoms, they really get a diagnosis and start on treatment. I think this will be a critical key to eventually to have the patients participate in clinical trials.
Okay. And yeah, I know it's kind of a stickler out there, but I think the more we talk about it, the more people hopefully will understand, with this process. Now, one of the questions I think people have regarding clinical trials is, is it going to cost me anything, or am I going to make any money if I do one of those? Can you answer those questions?
Yes. For participating in clinical trial, most of the time, I think at least for Alzheimer's clinical trial, will not cost anything for the participate in the clinical trial, and actually the participant will get some benefit from the laboratory testing, from the clinical physical examinations, and also by interaction with the clinical personnel, the clinical trial personnel. So I think actually we see quite often when the patients participating in clinical trial, they usually have some even patients on placebo, they will initially improve somewhat because the care they get and also the interaction they got with the clinical study personnel. This in terms of compensation, I think it's all depend on the stage of the clinical trial. I think in phase 2 or phase 3, usually the patients or caregiver will not get any compensate for really participating in the clinical trial. However, sometimes the study will pay, for example, the transportations and for the time they participate in the clinical trial, especially for the caregiver, if the caregiver needed to really taken away from their work and really drive the patients come into the study site and spend like a few hours in the study sites.
Okay. And then one of the other things is, and I've heard people who have dementia talk about this, they're really interested in getting involved in a lot of the studies, but the scope of the studies is a lot of times very, very small and specific. And so then they end up getting screened out, which I'm sure, you've got to have your criteria for that. But and I know you had mentioned that, you might need 700,000 to get 70,000 people, to be involved in the process. So that's pretty work intensive on your side too, just to go through the screening process as well. Is that correct?
Yes. There's a huge amount of effort in how to pre-screening and how to minimize the screening failure. There's a lot of collaborations to really trying to develop some useful testing or useful blood-based biomarker to really pre-screening the patients so they can maybe just go to a study site, have a simple blood draw, or they maybe go to some website to have some testing, online testing to assess their mental capacity, and which will further lead them if they are qualified for the next step, or they will be basically not qualified for any further assessment. So I think one thing I want to say is, there's a lot of ways actually you potentially can participate in a clinical trial, and actually there's quite a few existing registry. So I think the patients or caregiver can maybe go to online. At least I know 2 or 3 of them. One is organized by Alzheimer's Association. It's called a trial match. So basically, after you're registered with the website, they will be direct you to any suitable clinical trials. And there is also a collaboration between the many companies and also many universities, and it's based at the University of California, San Francisco. It's called the Brain Health Registry. And this basically is also you can provide information, and they will be also matching potential clinical trials and do some pre-screenings. And I think another maybe effective way is maybe ask your doctor. I think especially if you go to see your primary care or a neurologist, and sometimes they may have some information regarding what is going on locally and also what is coming up in terms of Alzheimer's clinical trial. And also the NIH, the National Institute of Health, also have quite a few websites. You can maybe go if you really want to involve in a clinical trial. There is a website organized or maintained by NIH. It's called clinicaltrials.gov, and basically that website listed all the clinical trials conducted in U.S., not only Alzheimer's, but also including every single trial involved patient.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So Trial Match and clinicaltrials.gov, and then you said talk to your doctor, and then there was one other one, but I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, there is also, it's called brainhealthregistry.org.
Okay, sounds good. We'll get those posted with this show as well, so that people can have those resources there. That will be great. What do you see kind of the upcoming role of partnerships between pharmaceutical companies and academics and research institutions when it comes to Alzheimer's disease? Do you see that changing? I'm hearing a lot of change going on there, but what are you seeing and feeling, because you're in it?
I think that this is absolutely necessary. The Alzheimer's disease is so complicated, and we have not have so much success over the last 10 or 20 years in terms of developing either symptomatic treatment or disease-modifying treatment. Even though we do have a lot of hopeful compound in late stage of development. I think any single entity, either the government or either the academia or pharmaceutical company, will not be able to really come up any meaningful ways to really get to the bottom of the Alzheimer's disease. So I think the collaboration between the government, between the pharmaceutical company, the biotech company, the academia, the non-profit organizations, the charities, and also the patients and the caregiver is extremely important in terms of better understanding what really caused Alzheimer's disease and how we can design a better drug to really eventually cure Alzheimer's disease. My hope is maybe within my life I can really see one or two or three drugs can really cure Alzheimer's disease. But I think we're still far away from that. In addition, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. For example, I mean, even though about 30% of even normal healthy has amyloid in their brain, and we still don't know why those people has no Alzheimer's symptoms or signs. So we really need to know what are the factors that can really speed up or really protect you getting from Alzheimer's disease. And I think we also need a collaboration to really better understanding the biomarkers. So basically, it's the biological markers to really understanding what biomarkers we can use for diagnosis and also to tracking the treatment. The hope is maybe one day we can develop a biomarker or combination of several biomarkers can really diagnose of Alzheimer's, just like the blood sugar to diagnose of diabetes or blood cholesterol for diagnosis of hypercholesterolemia. I think we getting a lot of advance in terms of biomarker, but I think we still need to have a significant effort to really eventually develop some useful biomarkers. So I think we have been joining quite a few public-private consortiums to really put our effort in conjunction with other pharmaceutical company, academia, research institute, and also NIH to really make sure we continue to advance the Alzheimer's science and advance the drug development, and eventually we can find a cure for Alzheimer's disease.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? That would be just absolutely fantastic.
I still have a high hope.
Well, we can't give up hope. You know, we have to be driven by hope, not fear, if we're going to, plunge through this and make a difference. So, I think that there's lots of hope. We've made huge strides. I mean, just in terms of having the conversation about the disease in and of itself, just in the last few years, I just can't believe the difference. And so, like I said, I have great hope that we'll figure it out sooner or later here. Any last minute things that you want to make sure that we cover with our audience that we haven't covered so far?
Yeah, I think one thing I want to say is, Alzheimer's disease is really not only affecting individual patients and their caregiver and family, but also as a society, this will be a significant issue and will be a significant issue. There's a projection about the whole U.S. Spending on Alzheimer's disease. For example, in 2016, we spent about more than $230 billion to taking care of Alzheimer's patients. And the projection is in 2015, if we don't do anything, if we don't come out any treatment to delay or slow progression, the whole United States will be cost like $1 trillion U.S. dollars to taking care of Alzheimer's patient, and this will bankrupt the Medicare or Medicaid if we don't do something. So I think that this is not only some personal level, but I think even from the whole society level, I think this there is significant urgency to really collaborate and to fight together to find a cure for the Alzheimer's disease. So I think the taking home message is do your best to participate in clinical studies, clinical trials, to provide support for any way you can support.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. And is there contact information that you want to give out to people for yourself if they have any questions?
I know I'm trying to find what's the best way to communicate. I think Rachel can give you an email address.
Okay, so what I'll do is if anybody wants to get a hold of Dr. Tong, just reach out to me, and then I'll go ahead and pass that information on to Rachel, and then she can get that information to you. That way we you don't have this mass mailings from people and stuff. We know that you're busy and want to respect that, and she may be able to weed through a few things and answer people's questions too as well. So, well, I so appreciate your time with us today. This is very interesting and enlightening, and we're hoping that people will get involved with some of the clinical trials that are out there and pass the word along. If you're not able to, maybe you know someone else who is interested and able to be part of the research.
Thank you. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to discuss with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful week, Dr. Tong. Appreciate it.
You too. Thanks.
So for those of you that are new to the Alive and Social Network, we just want to give a big shout out to them for hosting our Alzheimer Speaks radio show here. Another show you might be interested in is with Rachel Perrin, and she's a culinary director for Kowalski's Market, along with her producer and sidekick, Adam Lee. And they are joined by their foodtastic friends and colleagues to chat about seasonal flavors and favorite foods and trending topics on nutrition and everything that's yummy for your tummy. And, one of the questions that runs by most of us is what's for dinner tonight? And they can really help with that. Their podcasts are usually only 10 to 15 minutes per episode, so they're really perfect for someone who's busy yet hungry and would like some assistance in making some dinner plans. So check them out. And you can also go to Kowalskis.com to find complete menus, and that is KOWALSKIS.com. If you did not hear our last radio show, it was a very interesting. Chicago just launched a new state-of-the-art Alzheimer's care called Calandine, and it was very interesting because even though it's cutting edge, everyone thinks technology, they are really pushing the whole relationship based and making their community not home-like, but their actual home for people with dementia, which is so lovely to see. Later this week, I'll be posting the video for Dementia Chats that we had this morning, which kind of tied into that. We talked about technology and apps versus kind of relationship care. And our next Dementia Chats will be September 9th, so mark your calendars. That is in the morning, 11 Eastern Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, 8 Pacific, and 4 if you're over in London. Our last Conscious Caring Resource interview was with Scott Sheppen, and he is an entrepreneur in the senior care industry and co-founder of Caregiving Answers and also Senior Providers Network, which is for businesses, and it just had some great information. Our upcoming Caring Conscious resource will be with Humanitites, which is Absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to get that edited and out to you. Don't forget about the Caregiver Alert Center, too, where, when you're in crisis and somebody is missing, they can disseminate information that is life-saving. I wish you all the best this week, and we will talk to you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye now.
Hi, this is Suzanne Newman, host of the Answers for Elders podcast and radio show. We are the North Star that guides you through the complicated journey of senior care with trusted experts in money, law, living solutions, and more. So join us on this station, your favorite podcast channel, or just go to AnswersForElders.com. Meet the Wayshowers who will help your journey go a lot easier.